purple tie. And I want to ask Senator John McCAIN, a Republican from Arizona, who was sitting next to a Democrat last night, Senator John Kerry. Do you think the president's tie was emblematic of his bipartisan speech, mixing of blue and red to get purple?
You know, I hadn't thought about that, Gretchen, but perhaps that's the case. And by the way, I was sitting next to another Democrat, Senator Tom Udall, and an independent, Senator Joe Lieberman. So I tried to cover the waterfront last night. Look, investment means spending. That was the same rhetoric they used with the stimulus package. But I would like to give the president some credit, especially for his support of free trade agreement, medical malpractice reform. I almost fell out of my chair since we... in that 2,733-page bill they passed. Repeatedly, we tried to get medical malpractice reform in there. Him saying that he would veto a bill with earmarks on it. I'm very proud of that. Corporate tax cuts. We have the second highest corporate taxes in the world. So look, those were good things. Right on, Mr.
But
President.
Senator, wouldn't it have been nice if he would have had that kind of compromise attitude when you were actually debating health care before it became law?
Sure, and it would have been nice that 2 years ago that he would have voiced his support for a Colombia free trade agreement, for vetoing bills with earmarks on it, and those things. But look, I appreciate the fact that he was saying them last night. Now he's going to have a chance in the very near future to put that into action, particularly when we get to this debt limit issue. So
right.
We'll see. We'll see. But investment, you're exactly right. American people aren't fooled by the change in vocabulary. It ends up the same thing. And when I continue to see this, we got to invest. What about the investment in trying to prevent our kids and grandkids from being broke and bankrupt?
Exactly right. So invest equals spending. It looks like somebody at the White House got a thesaurus for Christmas. Hey, he did address something that is very near and dear to your heart, and that is, what do we do with all these people who are in this country illegally? Let's listen to what he said regarding some of the children, and then your reaction, sir.
Today, there are hundreds of thousands of students excelling in our schools who are not American citizens. Some are the children of undocumented workers who had nothing to do with the actions of their parents. They grew up as Americans and pledge allegiance to our flag, and yet they live every day with the threat of deportation. Let's stop expelling talented, responsible young people who could be staffing our research labs or starting a new business, who could be further enriching this nation.
And, Senator, he went on to say, we also need to start to protect our borders. Hello? We should have probably done that a while ago.
Well, and also, by the way, they're not expelling these people. But the point is that unless you want to deal with another generation, 5, 10, 15 years from now, of people who have come to this country illegally with their children, then you better get the border secured. John Kyle and I have a plan to get the border secured. We're going to ask the governors border state governors to tell us what they need. We will present that. If we can move forward with that, get our border secured, then of course we'd be glad to address the other issues. With broken borders, you're just going to have another group of people who are here illegally, and the compelling stories that you heard from the president last night. And by the way, he mixed up the people who are here going to school, who we'd like to keep in this country, you know, who are here legitimately on the H-1B visas and others, and those who are in this country purely illegally.
All right, thank you, Senator. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to immigration, and if that is a non-starter, if the president bit off way too many topics last night. But I got to bring it to something else regarding your own party. Some Democrats say the Republican Party split. You want some proof? Look at the fact that Congressman Paul Ryan and Michelle Bachmann both gave wrap-up speeches after the big speech. Let's listen.
Our debt is out of control. What was a fiscal challenge is now a fiscal crisis. We cannot deny it. Instead, we must, as Americans, confront it responsibly. And that is exactly what Republicans pledged to do.
Instead of cutting, we saw an unprecedented explosion of government spending and debt. It was unlike anything we'd ever seen before in the history of the country. We will push forward. We will proclaim liberty throughout the land. And we will do so because we, the people, will never give up on this great nation.
Senator McCain, not so much what they said, but the fact that they both gave addresses. What does it say about your party?
Well, I think that the Tea Party element is a significant and important part of it, and I think it's fine that Representative Bachmann gave her speech. I still think also that Paul Ryan is a person who understands these issues better than almost anybody else. By the way, I'm glad that Rob Portman is now a member of the Senate. But the point is, both of them, I think, pointed out, just a spending freeze isn't going to get it. We increased spending by some 84% in the last 2 years, if you count the stimulus package. We invested over $1 trillion, and it was going to give us 8% unemployment. As you know, it's now 9.4. So we've got to go back to at least 2008 levels and move towards 2006 levels, and we got to do entitlement reform as well.
Okay, well, you've got a busy day starting now. Senator, we thank you very much for joining us today from Capitol Hill.
Thank you. By the way, one other thing. I'm glad we didn't jump up and down nearly as often as we used to.
No kidding.
You'd be exhausted today.
No kidding. That was the one good thing about doing that bipartisan seating chart. All right. Thanks very much, Senator.
He doesn't have to ice his quads today.
Yeah, right. Well, he still can, just unrelated to the speech.
Yeah, exactly. How do you know what his workout regimen is?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. We have to do a couple quick